Did you just put the ring on, or are you in the first few years of your marriage? Welcome to the First Year Marriage Show, the podcast dedicated to helping newlyweds navigate the first few years of marriage. My husband, Marcus, and I will be sharing marriage tips to help you build a strong foundation for your marriage. We believe having a strong foundation is essential to having a happy, healthy, and lasting marriage. We will also be learning from the experiences of awesome married couples who have been where you are today, taking from them lessons to help you build a strong foundation for the lasting marriage you desire. Take a deep breath, relax, learn, and enjoy the show. Welcome to this week's episode of the First Year Marriage Show. I'm your co-host, Ashley Kusi. This week, we want to wish you all a happy Thanksgiving for all of you that celebrate. We have one review that was left in iTunes this week from jking717. We want to thank you for leaving us a review and rating in iTunes. That helps this show rank higher and become available for more couples to see. If you want to leave us a rating and review, visit firstyearmarriage.com/iTunes. We also would love to hear feedback about the show, what questions you want the couples asked, or any improvements and critiques we can make. For all the show notes for this episode, visit firstyearmarriage.com/11. Enjoy the show.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the First Year Marriage Show. I'm your host, Marcus Kusi, and in today's episode, we'll be sharing the first year marriage story of Philip and Loretta Devine. They have been married for more than 70 years, have 3 beautiful kids, and live in Louisville, Kentucky. Philip is a former Marine, a speaker, and host of the Live Life Better podcast. And his podcast helps husbands lean on Christ and love their families. Loretta is a stay-at-home mom and hosts cooking classes at divinecooking.com. Philip and Loretta, I've told everybody a little bit about yourself. Can you guys shed light into how you met and when you guys decided to get married?
Absolutely. Well, Marcus, thanks, first of all, for having us on the show. We're really excited about it.
I am too.
So we met in California when I was in the Marine Corps, and I was at a car wash. I was doing a car wash as a fundraiser, and I saw Loretta drive by in the car, and I hollered at her to come back and get her car washed. But it wasn't so much that I hollered at her, but that I was on the corner of the street doing push-ups with my shirt off.
Oh.
So I'm sure against Loretta's better judgment, she ended up coming around and getting her car washed. And I walked up to her and I said, "Hey, my name's Philip." And she said, "Mine's Loretta." And I said, "Do you have any plans tonight?" And she said,
Nope.
The rest is history. So.
Oh, wow. Loretta, why did you accept to tell him that you were not doing anything? Was there anything that unique about him that you wanted to know more about?
Well, actually, I was with my roommates, and Philip just seemed funny and harmless. He was just a funny guy. That was like a life-size Goofy, and they couldn't hurt a fly. So we met at BJ's, and we had dinner as a group, and he was a pretty cool guy. So
wow, that's
around.
That's really cool. So what was your reaction when he proposed to you and was like, "I want to marry you, I want to spend the rest of my life with you"?
I was very excited. It was all very rushed because he had just gotten home from a deployment and he was going to go to another deployment. So we had to be dated and married, engaged very quickly.
So, I mean, I had just gotten back from Iraq, and Loretta and I connected. And so basically in the span of 4 months, I asked her to be my girlfriend, asked her to marry me, and then we got married, and then I deployed 3 weeks later. So it's not a textbook picture perfect thing. I think we were definitely pushing our luck, but it's been great.
That's really neat to know, because my wife and I also got married after, I think, about 5 or 6 months of dating. And, a lot of people are like, you guys are not going to make it past the first year. It's going to be difficult. But we are here today, and by God's grace, we're able to help other couples, other newlyweds, enjoy their first year of marriage and be able to move further with their marriage. So with your first year, after you guys got married, I know you guys had like some difficulties and some struggles during that first year, especially with Philip being deployed. How will you describe your first year in 1 or 2 words?
Well, I have 2 ways to describe it. The first one was risky.
Risky?
And against the odds. Yeah, when you're a Marine and you're home for 7 months and then you deploy for 7 months, they all tell you to, if you get married, don't give your wife power of attorney. Don't give her access to your bank account. Don't do anything like that. And my thought process was, if I am dedicating my life, the rest of my life, to this woman, then by all means, she has open access to anything and everything. And when I got back from that second deployment, I was the only Marine who had money in the bank still, because Loretta didn't spend it. She made sure we were okay. In contrast to a lot of other Marines whose wives took their money, left them, and when the Marines came home, there was literally nothing except for an empty house. And so, common sense would say, don't give her all this access to my stuff. But I said, well, I'm not going to marry someone and not give them access to that. That's not really committing myself to them. So,
did you have to discuss this with Loretta at all?
Yeah, she knew. Well, yeah. What do you think about that, babe?
I think we were very open about it, because going into our marriage, Philip's parents were divorced and my parents were separated for a very long time. One thing that we did commit to each other was, if we were going to get married, we were not going to get a divorce. That wasn't going to be in the contract of marriage. So we had to commit 100%. And that was one of my words that I had chosen, was to commit.
Yeah, commitment and patience.
Yeah.
Were her two words that she came up with, yeah.
Okay, so Laura, what you're saying is, you describe the first year as being committed and having a lot of patience.
Yes.
Okay. So during that period that Philip was away, how did you adjust to married life? Because I cannot imagine getting married and seeing my spouse leaving me for 7 or 8 months out of the year, especially as a newlywed. Maybe after the honeymoon, he or she is gone away. Like, how did you handle that period that you were away from each other?
Well, there's always a saying in the military, like, for example, being in the Marine Corps, that I married a Marine. So in my mind, I had to be, put at ease that I married a Marine, and I married the Marine Corps. And that's how I went day by day, praying that I'd get him back. And if I didn't, then the time that I did spend with him was amazing. So we made every time intentionable.
Yeah, the hardest part, I think for me, at least, being when I was deployed for her, was I'd call her on the phone from the ship, and I would all of a sudden lose service. And at that point, you're halfway through a conversation, 20 minutes, you're just getting comfortable with each other, and then bam, phone's cut off for whatever reason.
And then don't hear from him 2 to 4 weeks or so.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is definitely not easy. Is it something that you guys had experienced prior to getting married?
Mm-mm. Unless he would go to the field and I wouldn't talk to him for about 2 weeks at a time. But that was pretty much the extent.
Yeah. But I mean, I was still in the United States. I was still safe. It wasn't anything crazy.
Oh, okay. So with the adjustments that you guys went through, like, was there any sacrifices that you each had to make in order to transition into married life as a newlywed and being away from each other?
Definitely. I would say our friends and putting together our home, our families, trying to pick up where we left off and pretend like there wasn't 8 months missing.
Yeah, we'd been married almost 1 year and only spent like 3 months of that year together. One of the things that was hardest for me was adjusting to my friends. Before I got married, I had really close friends in the Marine Corps. And I guess the easiest way to say it is they didn't want to share me with Loretta, or they didn't want her to be a priority over them. And in the Marine Corps, the culture is that where you don't really buck the system. And so when I married Loretta, it really alienated a lot of my friends, unfortunately. And that forced Loretta and I to evaluate. Well, it forced me anyway to say, well, is Loretta really more important than my friends, or are my friends more important than Loretta? And it was, looking back, I think, oh, it's no big deal. Of course, Loretta's more important. But, I went to combat with these guys, and, then they turned their back on me because I was marrying someone they didn't like for whatever reason. And so that was tough. That was tough.
Loretta, how did you feel knowing this?
It was very hard because I knew that it was causing conflict. It's not that they didn't approve of me. It was the fact that I took away their best friend and they didn't know how to transition. So it's almost like he had to divorce his friends, and they just had issues with it. They didn't want to divorce him.
Philip, is that something you want to add?
Yeah, I mean that's the best way to say it. I mean, I've reconnected with 2 of those friends, but there are still a few that I haven't been able to get in touch with. And to be honest, I don't think that we ever will really reconcile. I'd like to, but when I told them that Loretta takes priority over you guys, some guys really took that to heart and didn't want to go with that. But I think also that is one of the reasons why our marriage survived against the odds of the Marine Corps, when almost 90% of first-term marriages in the Marine Corps end in divorce, including a lot of my friends, because I refused to do what I used to do. I mean, I didn't live very well prior to meeting Loretta, but I said, okay, I'm getting married now. I'm settling down. I'm getting serious. I'm not going drinking with you guys. I'm not doing this. I'm not doing that. And that really, it's divorces. It separated us, and it made it very clear that I was with Loretta and not with them. And while it was uncomfortable for me, absolutely, it was worth it. Every part of it, and I wouldn't change it. I've lost some friends, but I've gained an amazing wife and some phenomenal kids, and my in-laws are phenomenal. I wouldn't trade it for anything.
Yeah, that is something that I completely agree with you. I know with a lot of people, when they get into these situations, it's either your friends or your wife. And usually with your friend, you've been with your friend for maybe 10, 20 years, maybe from childhood or since you guys were babies. And it's very difficult to make those decisions. But I know moving forward, so far as you're married, your spouse should be your priority. If your spouse is your priority, almost everything will work well or work towards helping you in the long run to be able to be a better person.
Yeah. Can I add something to that real quick?
Yeah.
Talking about friends that you knew longer than your spouse. When Loretta and I got married, of course, we had separate Facebook accounts, and I had female friends that didn't respect the boundaries that I set up, that I'm Loretta's husband now, which means you can't call me at 1:00 in the morning just to say hi. And all that. It was ridiculous. And that's why Loretta and I now share a Facebook account.
Wow.
I wanted to make it that ridiculously clear to them, and also show Loretta I got nothing to hide. Yeah. I don't care what old flames or old girlfriends or whatever. This is Loretta and Philip now, and it's a package deal. If you don't like it, if you don't like her, you don't get me. And if they don't like me, they don't get her. It was a way to show, and it's worked. We don't have any Facebook issues, and
we don't fight over it. And there's a lot of marriages that fight over social media and things that they've come across or whatever.
Yeah.
I really appreciate you guys doing this together, having a joint Facebook account. It's something that works for you guys. With me and my spouse, I don't think it's going to work for us because we are interested in completely different things, and it's just going to be a lot of chaos in this house for us. So I completely agree with you. It works for your marriage, and I know it's going to work for a lot of couples who are listening to us. But with other couples, it would be best to just have two different Facebook accounts or two different accounts to be able to work together as a married couple and still have your things that you can do that you enjoy that your spouse doesn't also enjoy.
Yeah. And like you said, that's what we had to do to set those boundaries up. There's other ways to set up those boundaries, of course. And that's the thing. It's just be willing to do whatever you need to do to make sure your marriage will last.
Yeah, that's definitely true. So with your first year, I know you were apart for at least 6 months out of the year. How did you guys make decisions, especially when it came to your finances and when it came to the goals that you were setting for each other?
Well, at first, I took over the finances because he was gone, and whatever he used when he was on deployment, which really wasn't a whole lot because you can't do much when you're on a boat. But when we got home, I did the budget.
Whenever she did the budget, we always had money. When I did the budget, we never had money.
But he's gotten very well, and now he's doing the budget.
We didn't really ever have money fights.
Never.
And I think we're fortunate that we never had money fights.
That's really good.
Yeah. We're both spenders, so it was more like, how can we save this month?
Right.
So you are both spenders and you never had money fights?
No, because we knew that if we had a goal in mind, we would achieve that together because we like the same thing. Mm-hmm. And if we knew it was a little tight, then okay, so maybe we would grill out instead of going to the barbecue restaurant up the road. Mm-hmm. We always made fun alternatives to our finances.
Yeah.
Nice. So apart from your finances, what other kinds of decisions did you guys have to make during that first year?
Yeah, so absolutely. So one of the things Loretta did for me was get an apartment, get furniture for the apartment, and have it set up so that when I came home from deployment, I came home to a home. because I told her, I said, you know what, babe, I don't want to worry about picking out furniture and whatever else. That's just a headache. So let me just come home and we can be together. Well, wouldn't you know that when I get home, there was a picture that had flowers on it, and I didn't like it. So we didn't fight about money, but we had some pretty serious disputes, if I can say it mildly, about that picture being on the wall. I mean, that was, at that time I was like, how is this ever going to work? I mean, I can't handle this picture on the wall. You know, I mean, I appreciate what you did, but come on. I mean, let's get rid of this picture. I don't know. I mean, looking back, it's ridiculous, but my goodness, it was an issue for us.
I think it's a power issue.
Yeah, that's probably the root of it.
How long did it take you guys to be able to resolve this picture issue that you had?
Well, I took some advice from a trusted mentor who said that the home is your wife's castle, and you should be grateful that she did anything for you.
That's a really good, wise saying that I'll definitely agree with. With our marriage friends, I'm not good with color, so I'm not creative at all. But my wife is good at creating things, so I leave all of that to work just so that I don't get into any fights or have to argue about anything. I just leave that. This is your stuff. This is what you're good at. Just do it, and I'm happy with whatever we agree to do together. Yeah,
absolutely. The other adjustment was my mother-in-law, so Loretta's mom. And she is a great mother-in-law, but I felt like when I got back from deployment, since that was Loretta's main support network, well, now it's time to spend time with me, not with your mom. I don't know if, babe, you want to elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, I think that was probably one of our biggest adjustments because my biggest support network was my mom. And once Philip got home, he automatically felt that he deserved the transition, and it was going to happen overnight, which he didn't realize that it was going to take some time transitioning. So I think we had some discussions on that. I needed to, essentially wean myself from my mother to be 100% to him, committed.
Yeah.
I know you're going through this. Was there any sacrifice that you had to make personally, Loretta? Was there anything that you had to work on yourself to be able to wean yourself from your mom?
Yeah, spending less time over there, going to my mom's. It came down to going maybe once a week instead of, we'll say, maybe 3 or 4 times out of the week to go visit her. It wasn't easy, but we made it happen.
Yeah, I mean, besides the whole power struggle about the picture, that was the biggest issue because I expected Loretta to switch immediately to, oh, my husband's home, so I'll be home all the time when he comes home. And she just spent 7 months distracting herself, going to her mom's, and which is good because she could have done what other wives did and find other men to hang out with. Instead, she spent time with her mom, protected herself, protected her marriage, and I came home and expected immediately for her to be home all the time. And it was unrealistic expectation that I set, I think, which probably made it more stressful for Loretta. I think I was a little bit demanding on
that. And apart from going through these changes as someone who just came home from being deployed away for about 7 months, was there any difficult moments that you guys had together as a newlywed, apart from struggling with Loretta having to spend less time with her mom?
Honestly, I mean, I think that was really it. Money wasn't an issue. A little bit of a power struggle. Our friends that we had to make new friends, and then her mom. I mean, that's
it. Do you guys want to elaborate more on the picture conflict that you guys had?
Yeah. So I still have to fight it now. I fight the urge to dictate where everything should go, because I feel like, incorrectly I think, but I feel like as the man of the household, as a leader, I should decide where everything goes. But with that picture, what it really was about, it was power. But one of my good friends from the Marine Corps came over to the house, and then when we left the house, he said something about the picture, like, "Oh, I like the flowers on the wall. That's cute," in a sarcastic way. And that's really what kind of set it off. I was like,
influenced your thinking.
Yeah, I mean, it influenced me a lot. I was like, I couldn't have my buddy come over and talk smack about my house. And, that's part of that struggle that I faced with, do I choose my friends or do I choose Loretta? And it wasn't even so much choosing, it's who am I more influenced by? And whereas Loretta may have wanted to spend more time with her mom, I was still incredibly influenced by my friends.
So how did you guys go about resolving this picture issue? Did you just have to sit down and talk, and then, or did you pick the picture and then put it somewhere in the wardrobe or in a drawer somewhere?
No, we actually left it up, but we came to a point where we discussed it and really brought out what Philip just said. Why it affected him this way. Like, was it the actual picture, or did it symbolize something that he was feeling inside? And that was one thing that we realized, is that we were trying to communicate with each other, and we didn't know how. So as like little children, you think, they say, I don't like that. Well, why? Oh, I don't like it. And as a beginning, our marriage, it was, well, I don't like that. Well, we didn't know how to express how we didn't like it.
Yeah.
So when we finally sat down to really talk about it and how I put effort into it, and it matched our table and it matched the kitchen, and I really put some thought into it, he was like, oh, you really put some thought into this. And I think he kind of got it, and we came to an agreement, and he said, leave it up there. It looks nice.
It's not a hill worth dying on. And the apartment did look phenomenal. I mean, it looked great.
That is very, very sweet to hear that you put in that effort to design the house and design everything and make sure everything is in line in terms of colors. If I was doing that job, I'm pretty sure I was going to be hard. Probably Philip would be like, oh my gosh, what this house look like? He'll probably get really, really angry and be like, I'm just getting everything out and giving it away to someone and go and get something new to redecorate the house.
Exactly, right?
Yeah. After you guys went through these changes, the adjustments that you were going through, what was the funniest moment that when you guys look back to, you always laugh and smile and just reminisce about the past times in your marriage?
There's a lot.
Just share one or two of the funniest ones that everybody's going to laugh just listening to.
Well, I had bought Philip a grill, and he did not do much cooking or outside. But he thought he would, give it a good go. And he set up candlelight outside, and he had the shrimp marinating, and then he put it on the grill. Well, we had difficulties starting it, and then the shrimp started to stick. Anyways, our dinner became a disaster, and it wasn't very romantic because you totally screwed it up. But it was funny because we're like, is there a manual on how to be romantic on our first night in our home with a grill?
I was totally trying to, be Rico Suave around here, and pretty much failed. And then, can I tell one more?
Yeah.
One more. Okay. So this is right before I deployed, right? So we've been married about a solid 2.5 weeks. And Loretta got me this really nice 2-tone white gold wedding band. It was brilliant, beautiful. Mm-hmm. And she always told me, stop playing with it on your finger. Like, I would take it off and play with it. So that she's like, well, don't play with it because you're going to lose it. And I'm like, babe, I'm not going to lose it. Come on, it's my wedding band, right?
You're excited you're married.
Yeah, exactly. I'm excited I'm married, so I'm rocking the wedding band, right? Well, we're in San Diego Bay, and I'm getting ready to deploy for 7 months. And wouldn't you know, I'm standing on the edge of the ship on the catwalk where the floor is a metal grate and below me is water. And I'm playing with my ring. Like I'm just playing with it. I'm not going to drop it. At least that's what I thought. Well, next thing you know, my ring drops, and it was like slow motion because it was slow enough where you could see it and you knew it was going to happen, but it was too fast to actually react. So it dropped, rolled, and into San Diego Bay it went. And so I had to call Loretta after being married for 2.5 weeks and say, hey, babe, I just put my wedding band into San Diego Bay. Which isn't good because she's like, oh, he's going to be deployed without a wedding band. It doesn't work well. So that's something we talk about a lot, I guess.
So, Loretta, what was your reaction when you got that phone call?
Well, I said, if you didn't want to be married, you didn't have to throw your ring. I would have got my money back. He didn't think it was very funny, but so we went and got him a cheap Walmart ring that his finger, and I didn't feel sorry about it by any means.
Like, it didn't have the comfort fit or anything like that, so
I guess you didn't play with it either.
Yeah.
No, not at all.
Yeah. Whilst you guys were going through that first year, I know you've been away for about at least 6 months out of the whole year. Was there any resources or books or programs that you guys went through that helped you guys stay together and stay connected, even though you were miles apart from each other?
Yeah, one of the things we did, I remember this especially because I was in Kuwait during this part of my deployment, and we went through the 5 love languages and I Promise. I think the 5 love languages is by Dr. Gary Chapman, and I Promise is by Dr. Gary Smalley, I believe. And those 2 books really helped me keep my mind on the marriage. I mean, it was difficult I couldn't read it with Loretta because we were, I was on the other side of the world, but it helped me, remind myself, hey, you're married. You have a big task ahead of you when you get back from deployment, which is like a brand new marriage. Prepare for it, And I mean, I think those were really instrumental in shaping our marriage.
Loretta, is there any other book or resource that you want to add in there?
Well, it's not a book, but if I could recommend to married military couples is marriage counseling is great. I would have to say that really helped us communicate a lot. Philip could speak the way he wanted, and the counselor could kind of translate for me and say, this is what he was saying. That's what really helped me, because I'm not much of a reader. I listen to audiobooks. That really, really meant a lot to me when he had gotten home. We had done some counseling.
Oh, so the counseling was after he got back from deployment?
Yes, we had some before, and then when he got home, we also did counseling too. Yeah. Just to make sure that our marriage would stay together. We didn't want to enter into our marriage and it not work. So we wanted to prevent that from happening.
Oh, so it was more of you guys being proactive with your marriage?
Yes.
Yeah, and I think that's the kicker. When Loretta suggested, hey, let's go to the VA and get marriage counseling, it's free. I was like, okay, babe, how about not? Because I don't need counseling and we don't blah, right? Like, who wants to admit that you need a counselor? But, she convinced me to do it. Well, let's just do it and be proactive. And while I guess we could say it was proactive, I mean, that's what got us started. In reality, it was needed. And I don't know where we would be if we didn't have it. I think we would still be married, but it wouldn't be quite as happy, or we'd still be way behind.
I don't think we could be able to communicate as well as we do now.
Yeah.
Wow. That's fantastic. I'm happy you guys, even though Philip, you didn't want to go for the marriage counseling, you still accepted it and actually took part in it. And as a result, you've been able to build a better relationship with Loretta. You've been able to communicate well, and your marriage is growing the way you guys wanted to grow together. And I know there are listeners or newlyweds out there who are listening to us today who maybe one spouse have thrown the question out there. I think we need some marriage counseling. I think we should go see a marriage counselor to talk about this issue or that issue, or to just be proactive. What is the one lesson or advice that you say to that couple who are listening to us today?
For me as a guy who didn't want to go initially, you don't need marriage counseling because something's wrong. You get marriage counseling because you care about your marriage. It's just that simple.
Yeah.
We moved to Dallas 2 years after we were in California. After I got out of the Marine Corps, we went and saw another marriage counselor just to make sure we were okay. And of course, there were some issues that popped up that we just hadn't even thought about talking about that were really bothering us. But it was totally worth it. I mean, you can go to marriage counseling, I think, your entire marriage, and it would be beneficial.
Yeah.
Yeah, I completely agree with you guys. I know it's one of the most difficult things for a lot of couples to do together, because they think, their marriage is great and everything is going smoothly. But I completely agree with you guys that for just the sake of your marriage, it's nice to do that once in a while, to see a marriage counselor. And even if you don't have the money to visit a marriage counselor, if you can take an online marriage course or an online marriage program that will give you guys some questions that you can ask each other, just to see if you're on the same page and you are going in the direction that you guys want to go together, that will still be really something worth doing.
Yeah. And can I say this about the money part?
Yeah.
And marriage counseling isn't exactly cheap, but it is about priorities. If you guys really want marriage counseling, if we really want marriage counseling, cancel your cable TV. And likely pay for, that every month what you would be paying for TV, you can get marriage counseling. So, it is expensive, but I think it's a priority. And I don't think there's too much of a price you can put in your marriage. You can go to churches and they give pro bono marriage counseling and all that stuff.
Oh, okay. So before we end today's episode, I want you guys to give us one lesson of advice that you wish you had known during your first year or before you guys were married together.
I would have to say, if there's some obligation that you feel that you have to be, but if your heart's not there or you want to be there, then you shouldn't be there. Does that make sense?
I'm trying to understand it, but can you please elaborate?
Yes. If there was a party that our friends had and Philip and I did not want to go, we should just say no, and him and I should just go and do something together rather than going to the party and wishing we would have done something ourselves together.
Because at that point, we're basically living for our friends and not for our marriage.
Yeah.
That is very clearly understood right now. Philip, is there something else that you want to add to it?
I guess the biggest takeaway for me from our first year of marriage is that nothing is ever as big of a deal as it seems at the time. You know, in the big context, when I'm looking back at, we've been married 40, 50 years, the picture on the wall isn't a big deal. Spending time with Loretta's mom is not a big deal. And so it's easy to think that, to get tunnel vision, and think that, oh my goodness, this issue, whatever issue we're battling right now, is just going to make or break us. But it's not, because you have to remember that, you know, the sign of a successful marriage is faithfulness through thick and thin, good and bad. And so when I think about whatever issue we're having, if we're having an issue, I think, well, I know Loretta's going to be here 20 years from now, and I'm going to be here 20 years from now. And if I know that, then I know that we'll work through this.
That is very, very true. I completely agree with you guys. And I've taken 2 tips out of the interview today, which is to not take the little things that are going on in a marriage so seriously, because 50, 10, 20 years down the road, when I look back, I probably wouldn't even see those things as being anything that is important at all, or something that I should be complaining or whining about every single day. So I really appreciate you guys sharing your advice and the lessons that you've learned so far, so that we can also apply them in our marriage and improve our lives and improve our relationship with our spouses. So before we end today's episode, I know there are listeners out there. There are probably some newlyweds who are also in the military that would like to get in touch with you guys to help them with certain situations that they're going through in their marriage. What is the best way that we can all connect with you guys, either on the web or via email, on Facebook, Twitter, whatever ways that we can connect with you guys? Can you please share them with us?
Yeah, absolutely. On Twitter, you can find us at, I'm at Philip K. Devine, and my name is spelled with 1 L. And then Loretta is at Loretta Devine 08. And if you want to shoot us an email, you can just email us at hello@philipdevine.com. If you have a question about marriage, about transitioning from the military, about figuring out how to stay married while you're in the military, we'd both love to help you guys out. And actually, Marcus, we created a resource for your listeners, and it's called the Top 3 Resources Successful Couples Use to Divorce-Proof Their Marriage. And I've got a special link just for you and your podcast audience, and it's philipdevine.com, that's with 1 L, /first year.
Okay, philipdevine.com/first year. Our listeners, if you're driving, I just want to assure you all of these links are going to be in the show notes for today's episode, and you can just head over to the website, firstyearmarriage.com, and just look for Philip, search for Philip Devine, or search for Loretta Devine, and you should be able to get all the show notes for today's episode, so you can access these free resources that they are making available for all of us. I really appreciate you guys making these resources available for us, because I know it's going to help us in many ways in our marriage.
Absolutely, Marcus. I mean, we're in the same fight, you know?
Yeah. So
encouraging marriages and making it happen. So, I mean, thanks for what you're doing.
Yeah. Thank you guys for taking time out of your schedules today. I know you guys have a really full plate, but you still took out about 1 hour of your lives to share your experience with us. I really appreciate it, and I'm grateful for it. And I know our listeners are also grateful, and they took some lessons out of it that they can also apply in their marriage to be able to build the healthy marriage or the lasting marriage that they want as a couple together.
Hey, no problem. And again, thanks for having us on the show, Marcus.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the First Year Marriage Show. To submit a question, feedback, or suggestions for the podcast, visit firstyearmarriage.com/feedback. Apply what you've learned today and build a strong foundation for the happy, healthy, and lasting marriage you desire. Enjoy your marriage. Enjoy your life.